Chapter 1. Kenneth came out of the chieftain's house, closed the door behind him, then stood outside it for a few moments, debating whether to go straight home to his wife or head down to the loch and freshen up first. It was late, and he was very tired and cold too, and wanted nothing more than to be in his bed, warm and snug, with his wife curled up against him. It had been a strange 3 months since Alexander had died. Everyone had expected it to be a little different, but had assumed that initially things would carry on pretty well as they had before, especially as it was winter, when everyone in the Highlands generally focused on homely tasks and on surviving whatever the weather threw at them. It was not a time when the chieftain would normally be needed to make life or death decisions. If Alexander had to die, he had chosen the best season of the year to do it. At least he had if his heir had been around to take up the reins. But Alex was not around, and for the 100th time Kenneth wondered when he would arrive. There was no doubt that once he received the news he would return home as quickly as possible. Everyone in the clan knew that. Duncan had sent 3 letters, hoping that at least one of them would reach its destination. All they could do now was wait. Except that Duncan, who of Alexander's 3 sons had always been the patient one, the contemplative one, the one who couldn't care less what others thought of him, had found himself unable to just passively sit and wait for his brother to come home and take over. Instead, he seemed to think he had to make everything as perfect as possible, to show Alex and the clan what a competent deputy chieftain he was. Because of that, every house was in perfect repair, every knife, dirk and sword sharpened, every ounce of oatmeal, every apple accounted for. When there was nothing left to do, Duncan had searched for tasks to occupy himself with. And both Duncan and Angus, without even realizing it, had relied on Kenneth. Kenneth had expected that. As the tallest and strongest man in the clan by far, everyone looked to him to help with heavy work. But Duncan and Angus had needed a different strength. They had needed a father figure, someone they could trust, ask for advice, and receive reassurance from. They had looked to him, and Kenneth, moved beyond words, had given them that, to the best of his ability. Duncan had also needed someone he could show his vulnerability to. He knew the clan looked to him now as their chieftain, albeit temporarily, and a chieftain could not show fear, could not show weakness, for if he did, the clan would doubt his capability. Alex, when he returned, would no doubt hide his vulnerabilities, even from Kenneth. But Duncan, grieving the loss of his father and absence of his brother, needed support, needed to ask for advice and to receive sensible suggestions when he did. The clan were only in the habit of asking for Kenneth's muscular assistance, and he hadn't been sure he was capable of providing the intellectual help he was now being asked for. But Duncan had asked him, and so Kenneth had done the best he could in that capacity too. And to his absolute astonishment, not only had Duncan listened to and adopted many of his suggestions, but over time other clansfolk had started coming to him for advice too, which told him that Duncan, whatever his worries about appearing weak, saw no need to claim the credit for ideas that were not his own, as many a lesser man would. Although Kenneth never had and never would have the slightest interest in one day becoming the chieftain, this new respect from the clan members gave him a new sense of purpose, a spring in his step. So it was that when there had been a sudden warm spell a few weeks ago, and much of the snow had melted, Kenneth had suggested that it might be worthwhile checking whether there was any unusual movement at Inversned Barracks. Duncan had immediately agreed, and had sent him, Alan, and Angus along on a reconnaissance expedition, which had told Kenneth that not only did Duncan trust his advice, but also trusted him to look after the person he treasured most, apart from his fiancée and his absent older brother. It was a very good feeling indeed to be so trusted, so respected,
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.